It's been a fixture on screens around the world for 30 years now. But how did a television soap put Melbourne on the map? Hello and welcome to The Travel Show with me, Krista Larwood, coming this week from Melbourne in Australia. And if you're a fan of the TV soap Neighbours, you'll know exactly where I'm standing. This is, of course, Ramsay Street, the home of the Aussie characters whose lives and loves are played out on our screens. A bit later in the show, I'll be going behind the scenes to discover how this ordinary suburban street has become one of the most popular tourist attractions in the country. But first, how tourists in Berlin are being given the silent treatment in an effort to keep the noise down.
And I'm not allowed to say a word. Okay, I gotta get back into character.
We'll be meeting the man behind this image that's claiming to be the world's biggest ever panorama. And we've got news of a guide that gives you a bird's eye view of the world. Now, Germany produces more beer than any other country in Europe, so it's no surprise that many tourists like to enjoy a glass or two when they visit the country. But now some locals in the German capital want to call time on the late-night revellers who are interrupting a good night's sleep, and they're using a novel way of getting a bit of hush, as Ben Zand now reports.
Berlin, one of the fastest growing cities in Europe. Last year, a record 12 million tourists descended on the capital, famous for its vibrant party scene. But for a growing number of residents, the so-called party tourism and noisy tourists are getting out of hand.
Championi, Juve.
It's getting much more uncomfortable. It's getting louder and louder, nighttime, daytime. In the daytime you got this coffee shop tourists, in the nighttime you got the young people in the bars, in the pubs. So I have to, even in the summertime, I have to sleep with a closed window and earplugs. Always.
Well, have no fear. The mimes are here. Some tourists have been making locals upset and angry due to their excessive noise and unruly behaviour. But now they're being given the silent treatment.
Local authorities and the Visit Berlin Tourist Association have joined forces with club and hotel owners to launch an ambitious project that will see mime artists taking to the busy streets of Berlin to encourage more considerate behaviour.
Some part of the city where like the most bars and clubs are, we're losing tolerance of the people who live there. And so we need to do something. And one idea was send out police authorities. They should take care of the problem. I think it's not a Berlin way of solving such problems. So our way of doing it is sending out mimes, sending out creative people, and be positive and tell them maybe you just have to think a little more when you're celebrating, because up there people want to sleep at some point of the night. This is like the art they learned. They went to Berlin school for mimes, so they know they are professional mimes.
The project seems like a fun way to stop crowds getting a bit too rowdy. But as a man who's been on a few nights out myself, I can't imagine it's an easy job for the mimers. So I'm going to go and give them a hand.
The 2-month pilot will see teams of mimes heading to prime tourist locations on weekend nights between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m.
It's amazing how awkward silent conversations are. How many years have you been a mime? 10 years, you're like a veteran mime. You're an old school one. How many have you been? 20 years. Are there any specifically crazy tourists that you don't, nationality-wise? Spanish? Spanish, no. English? Oh, come on, guys. Come on, guys, of all days. You made me a monster.
Berlin isn't the first city to try and mime its way to peace and quiet. Barcelona and Paris have been using mimes and other street artists for years, with growing success. To make sure the message isn't lost in silent translation, trained mediators are at hand to chat with the public and hand out leaflets with more information.
Okay, so I'm not really meant to talk, but this is ridiculously hard because I'm a very chatty dude and I'm not allowed to say a word. And okay, I gotta get back into character.
I think it's a good idea because I think it's special and I never seen something like this before.
It's actually a very playful and fun way to make people become more quiet, and I also believe that people would definitely respect it since Berlin really stands for being quirky.
I live in the 4th floor and I still can hear the noise and have really trouble to sleep. It stops to be quiet something like 5 o'clock in the morning.
And what do you think about the guys who look like me going around trying to make everyone be a bit quieter?
I think it's a pretty good idea because we have here so many tourists coming all over the world. You don't know what kind of language they speak, so you try to convince them that they should lower their noise, basically, and just behave a bit more decent.
I have to admit, I was a little bit nervous about acting as a mime in public, but as it turns out, I think I'm a bit of a natural.
So am I the greatest mime in the whole of Berlin, apart from you guys?
Well, that's a good enough reason for a silent celebration of our own.
Ben Zand reporting there on a novel way of keeping tourists out of trouble while in Berlin. And if you're thinking of heading there anytime soon, here are some travel show tips to consider before you go.
Taxis can be hard to flag down in the city, so why not travel with the locals? Berlin's public transport is cheap and efficient. There's the S-Bahn, which are fast trains, and U-Bahn, which is the underground subway, as well as buses and trams, which cover the city in an extensive network. Don't forget to validate your ticket before boarding the trains. You could face a heavy fine if you forget. If you prefer to take a stroll, why not head to Museum Island, a complex of 5 museums that collectively enjoy UNESCO World Heritage status. Or take a walk through the famous Tiergarten. Berlin is a surprisingly green city, and the parks and tree-lined streets really come into their own during summer. Well-known street artists from around the world have left their mark on local walls. The East Side Gallery, which sits along the Spree River, is the longest remaining section of the Berlin Wall. More than 100 artists from all over the world turned it into an open-air gallery after the fall of the wall, including peace and often politically minded murals.
Time now to find out what's going on around the rest of the world. Here's your travel update. If you're thinking of heading to Nepal, you'll now be able to access hundreds of damaged monuments there after they were reopened for visitors following the devastating earthquakes in a bid to kickstart tourism for the cash-strapped country.
the government opted to open the heritage sites, despite warnings from UNESCO that the structures are still in a precarious state. Across to the United States, where 2 young people on a North Carolina beach were left seriously injured following 2 shark attacks. The first attack on a young girl was followed just 2 hours later with an attack on a 16-year-old boy 3 kilometres down the beach. The 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta was celebrated at locations across the UK this week. Queen Elizabeth II led commemorations at Runnymede, a riverside meadow west of London where in 1215 King John faced disgruntled barons to agree a list of basic rights. The Magna Carta is considered the founding document of English law and civil liberties. And finally, ever wondered how you'd fare in a cherry spitting contest? Well, record numbers thronged this year's annual contest in northern Japan, in which contestants battled to spit cherry pits the farthest. This year's winning distance of 11.2 metres was no match for the mammoth tournament record of 23 metres.
Well, stick with us, because still to come on The Travel Show.
I head to one of the most famous streets in Australia, and will also reveal the holiday destination where taking a selfie could put your life in danger.
The Travel Show, your essential guide, wherever you're heading.
Hello and welcome to Trending Travel, where we explore what's hot online in the world of travel. I'll be bringing you through those essential apps, videos and blogs to take with you when you leave home. First off, let's take a look at the apps that have been on our radar.
Navigating your way around a new city can be one of the most frustrating parts of a trip, but there's now loads of apps available to help you. City Mapper helps users get around a growing number of cities. Its really easy user interface shows the quickest ways to get around, so you can take in all the sites without wasting too much time. While most of you might be familiar with Google Maps, you might not be aware of some of its features, like offline maps. These let you save a map of your destination before you leave your home or hotel, so that you're not stung with heavy data charges while you're away. You can also use it for public transport suggestions when you're on the move. A digital art exhibition at the Victoria and Albert Museum in London has taken one of London's biggest tourist hotspots and allowed users to insert a caption to accompany the people on film. It was created by artist Carl MacDonald, who described it as a crowdsourced description of 12 hours in Piccadilly Circus. To see this unique take on the London landmark, you can access the artwork online.
Do check those out and let us know if there are any apps that you just can't travel without. Now let's take a look at the viral videos that have been clocking up the views this month.
Drone films and photography can give a unique perspective on a place. It's a technology that has been around for a while, but now the growing number of drone films available mean you can travel the world with a bird's eye view from your own home. These videos are from the website Travel by Drone. Using the site, you can take a look at a city before you visit in a unique way. It's addictive viewing.
Don't forget, we're on Facebook, Twitter and email. And you've been sending us some great stuff this month.
We've had more pictures than ever from you this month via our Twitter feed, and some of them are simply stunning, like this one from Sudeep of a balloon ride in Cappadocia in Turkey. We particularly loved these pictures of London sent in by travellers enjoying some rare moments in the sun. Get in touch by Twitter on Tuesdays using the hashtag TravelTuesday, and we'll share the best pictures that come in. But be careful where you take those photos. This month, a famous landmark in New South Wales, Australia, known as Wedding Cake Rock, had to be fenced off due to a number of people who were coming to take photos of themselves on this dangerous cliff to post on Instagram. Check out the hashtag Wedding Cake Rock to see some of the stomach-turning shots. Now, is this the biggest panorama ever taken? Mont Blanc was the star of the show in this simply stunning photo, which was viewed 1 million times in just 5 days. In the interactive picture, viewers on the web can take a personal tour of this beautiful mountain. The amount of detail is breathtaking, thanks to 365 gigapixels and the thousands of pictures taken to assemble the giant photo. We spoke to Filippo Blangini, who led the project.
is an image that can have more interest from just the largest panoramic image in the world, but wanted to be an emotional image where you can experience the Mont Blanc in a totally different way.
And finally, if a selfie stick just isn't long enough, how about a trunk? We love these adorable elephant selfies taken when traveller Christian LeBlanc had his camera pinched in Thailand. The images have been liked thousands of times after Christian posted the images on Instagram and Facebook.
And don't forget to check out our website for all the ways that you can get in touch, or if you've seen anything online that you think we should be looking at. See you next time.
Melbourne is one of the most visited cities in Australia, known for its cafe culture, interesting laneways and big sporting events. But one of its greatest attractions is located in an obscure place in the suburbs, and it brings in tourists all year round, even at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning in winter. I'm joining a tour that's a bit unusual in that we're heading to a fictional place, the leafy Melbourne suburb of Erinsborough.
Welcome on board, folks. Is there anyone here who's came to Australia without a jacket? I can see your hands!
Erinsborough is the setting of one of Australia's most beloved cultural exports, the TV soap Neighbours. The series follows the lives of the residents of Ramsay Street, an ordinary suburban cul-de-sac.
Helps to make a better day.
The first episode went to air in 1985, which means this year marks the 30th anniversary of the programme. During its time on air, Neighbours has not only become Australia's longest-running soap, but it's been broadcast in over 50 countries, from the UK and Ireland to Kenya and Vietnam. Over the past 3 decades, Neighbours has been a proving ground for some of Australia's best-known performers and helped launch a 19-year-old Kylie Minogue, Russell Crowe and Guy Pearce, and Margot Robbie.
Here we go, guys.
Given the soap's international appeal, it's perhaps not surprising that tourists from around the world are drawn to visit the place where it all happens, Ramsay Street. Although it's actually called Pin Oak Court and is located in the very real suburb of Vermont South. The street plays host to the Neighbours cast and crew twice a week, and it's been the location since the very first episode. At other times of the week, it's a normal street with real residents, although there is a security guard posted 24/7 to ensure that visiting tourists don't get out of hand. There's even the chance to catch up with one of the series' actors taking a break from filming on set.
Yeah, I'm enjoying your... Let's have a look, shall we?
Neighbours' plotlines may be melodramatic, but by filming in an ordinary street, the soap does reflect something of real life in Australia, where 70% of people live in suburbs.
That's when good neighbours become.
Do you think the show says something about Melbourne?
There is definitely a coordinated effort between the writers and also the crew members to bring up things and have things in the background that do incorporate Melbourne as a city. Like here, Grand Final gets brought up and all, like here also with the horse racing when it's the Melbourne Cup. It's perfect, like here it's put us on the map.
For Melbourne tourism, Neighbours has come to mean big business.
Community Centre, Sonia's Nursery, this is the history.
This official Neighbours tour has hosted over 250,000 tourists since it began over 15 years ago, and it still fills up to 6 busloads a day during the summer months.
It's had a huge impact in Melbourne tourism. In fact, it's the #1 on everyone's tick list, especially from Britain when they come to Melbourne. They'll choose Ramsay Street over any other destination in this state. I can guarantee you that.
And the show certainly seems to have shaped many tourists' views of Australia.
Oh my God, I'm where Neighbours is.
I got off the plane and someone spoke to me and I was like, oh my God, they sound like so-and-so of Neighbours. And I was like, wait, I'm in the country of Neighbours, that's why.
When you seen that, you thought of Australia being sunny all the time and everything's supposed to be really, really good in it. Didn't know it was as cold over here.
Ramsay Ramsay Street is used for many of the outdoor scenes, but for interiors, the cast and crew up sticks and come just a few blocks away to Nunawading Studios. And I'm lucky enough today to get the chance to have a sneak peek behind the scenes. Inside, the Neighbours team is hard at work creating a scene at Erinsborough Hospital. The programme is one of the fastest working drama series in the world, producing 6 episodes in each 5-day production week. I watched Neighbours for years and years. My inner 13-year-old is freaking out right now.
And action!
One of the longest serving actors on the show is Stephen Dennis. He appeared in the series' very first episode and has played the role of Paul Robinson, Ramsay Street's hard-nosed businessman, for much of the show's 30 years, including during the late 80s and early 90s, when Neighbours was first taking the world by storm.
The nearest thing that I can equate it to, it was absolute Beatlemania. People would just grab at you, and we couldn't understand that. It was like, hang on a second, whoa, we're just, just small-time actors from Melbourne. Don't get too excited.
Next door is only a footstep away.
In recent years, the popularity of Neighbours has waned. Ratings in Australia and the UK have dropped significantly since the highs of the series' heyday, and the programme has been moved onto a satellite channel in its home country. Still, that doesn't seem to have stopped the tourists, who continue to pour into Pin Oak Court. And whether or not the series ever regains its record-breaking ratings, this tourism trend might just continue for another 30 years.
That's when good neighbours become good friends.
Well, that's all we've got time for on this week's travel show. Thank you for joining us on our travels. And don't forget, you can keep up with us while we're out on the road in real time if you like. Just grab your smartphone or tablet and sign up to our social media feeds. Details are on the screen now. Coming up next week. Henry heads to the tiny island of Rotorua off the coast of New Zealand, where he meets the conservationists who've begun an ambitious project aimed at introducing endangered species into a new home.
We've chosen species that we think we can use to demonstrate conservation techniques.
So do join us then if you can. But in the meantime, from me, Krista Larwood, and the rest of the Travel Show team here on the Neighbours set in Melbourne, it's goodbye.